Dr. Skylar Olsen is a housing economist and affiliate instructor at the University of Washington. She is also the Senior Director of Economics at TOMO, a digital real estate and mortgage startup. Skylar spends her time making sure consumers, media, and brokers have the data and understanding to figure out the how, why, and what's next in real estate. Hello, Skylar. Thanks for coming on with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Hi, Skylar. How's everything going?
That's going good. It's really great to see you again.
Good. Well, Skylar, how did you connect with the UW Real Estate Department?
Yeah, well, I got my graduate degree at UW, so I got a PhD in the econ department. So, and after living up here for a while, decided to stay. And I joke, Zillow rescued me from academia. But then at Zillow, I did, a lot of outward-facing work and getting into that, and ended up meeting a lot of people in the commercial real estate community. Got connected to the director of the Runstad Center. So when I was leaving Zillow and I needed what is my path and what will I do, reached out to him and always knew, I say rescued from academia, but I always loved the teaching part of it, like that connection to humans and that more immediacy was, kind of why Zillow rescued me, why I refer to it as rescue. So the idea of could I come back and get that, human connection, that immediate impact on people, maybe not the academic research, but teaching people like Christian. And there was an opportunity. And I actually don't know if this class as a concept existed kind of even before I reached out to ask, but it was a good fit. And Sophia, the head of the graduate program, and I know we'll talk about the class in a second, but she really encouraged me to do that one in particular. And, I'm excited to do it.
Great. Well, it's a fascinating background. So tell us more about your current position at TOMO.
Yeah, so TOMO is a digital mortgage company. So we're a startup, very well funded, a unicorn. So that feels really good, meaning we got a great runway, but it's a lot to build, to build a digital media company from scratch. When I say digital media company, if you want to anchor it in your mind, what does that mean? It's something like better.com, it's something like Rocket, but we're, younger and scrappier, starting from, I think, a different emphasis on bringing humans forward as a part of technology, as opposed to just trying to rewrite it. And really that transaction in real estate, to buy your home, that's a part that we haven't figured out. And it's, hasn't been disrupted enough. It's still overly complicated, overly stressful. So we're working on that problem. And then the way that I help as an economist, I help feed the finance department and our VP of mortgage, data and information that they need in order to build our business model and make it great. But I don't really focus on that so much. What I focus on is what is happening in housing markets. How can I understand housing markets? What's the data that I can get at in order to do that? And then how do I share that out into the world? So to consumers, but how do I get to them? I go through media, and I go through real estate agents, and I go through, brokerages and, MLSs if they want to talk to me. And mostly, my teammates, so loan advisors and loan officers.
So you teach a class titled RE, Market Evolutions and Disruption. What are some of the learning objectives of that class?
Yeah. So, so real estate evolution and disruption, right? I think all of us are fairly familiar with evolution and disruption in, say, retail, right? Our world has really changed in the way that we buy stuff, with Amazon and it's not just the way our lives have changed, how we've experienced retail, right? It's also the people that used to get retail done, right? Their whole world and lives have changed. Real estate in so many ways is untouched. So much of it is, because it's just a real different kind of market. It's way more complicated. It's heterogeneous goods. We're making decisions that we don't make all the time. So they're hard. We haven't really fixed that or touched those industries we still use brokers, right, in order to get a lot of it done. I know we've got, great brokers here. Not to say that we don't need those. I'm not saying, the job of tech and evolution and disruption is to totally get rid of people, but there is that element of it, right? So the change is coming. It hasn't happened yet, but record VC funding and prop tech over the past, few years, but 2021 was a spectacular example of VC funding in prop tech. I mean, the evolution is coming. Okay, so what is the learning objective of the class? Well, we've got, students going into careers in real estate. Some of them are maybe conventional paths. Some of them could be, in tech and evolution and disruption. But either way, you're going to be impacted by technology and what it can do to this industry and its implications for the industry. But it's not just the technology, it's also the paradigms within tech that make these companies grow so fast, and then go in and try and find new unique business models, to harvest, profit and surplus, and things like that, but also to just radically, hopefully, help consumers. And so the goal is of the class, it's how do you, what are the paradigms? How do they work? What are the technologies? How can we apply them across tech? And then the goal is really for the student, you leave with an intuition of, and an ability to maybe anticipate the ways that these industries will change, maybe for yourself, or your path forward, and then a little bit of experience. Like I made these guys create or kind of imagine what their own prop tech company could be, and I kind of walk through what are the parts that you might need to identify in order to kind of think about all of that. And people had really great kind of creative ideas. And then we tried to do other kind of paradigms in tech that I really enjoy, which is, continuous improvement and things like that. So how do people kind of learn as well? So I made them give reviews on, their student or their peers. And what do you think, Christian? Do you think you experienced, maybe did I give you a flavor as well as what it might be to go work for a tech company?
Yeah, no, I thought the final presentation and project was a super cool thing where we all had to come together and pretty much build our own startup from scratch, essentially, and give the presentation. So I thought that was an awesome final project.
Yeah, great. And they didn't just do that, right away. We walked through a bunch of case studies on our way, and like what are the paradigm, what are the technologies, and Christian was our cryptocurrency guy and our NFT and virtual real estate fanatic. You'll have to tell me how those investments are going, by the way.
Yeah, I'll let you know after class how that's all going. So then, so what are some of the innovations that you are most excited about in the future, and what ones do you think will make some of the greatest impacts on the real estate industry?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Great. Gosh, we did walk through so many, but what are my favorite innovations? I think my favorite innovations have to do a little bit more with kind of the work that I do in terms of, I guess what I would imagine, let me just kind of jump a little bit back. So I mentioned like, what are the paradigms in which, tech might come and kind of apply to the world? Well, my paradigm is as an economist. So if I was to, fix the world, how would I find the problems and then know what to do? Well, I would look at where are the market failures. So my favorite market failure, not because it does good things, but because it's the one I like to address the most, is asymmetric information, right? So in terms of my, favorite innovations, right, or what are the ways, what can we do for a consumer while they're searching for their home and while they're making these decisions? What can we do, or what do we put in place so that they can make a better decision, right? So for me, I harvest data and information, I analyze it, and I try and create consumer tools, right? So from the company's perspective, that's an innovation and a kind of cool thing because it's a value add, it's a non-salesy value prop that they can use to build a brand, right? In order to really build market share, but you're doing it through education. And so that, I guess, is kind of one of my fun ways. Is the innovation, I guess, is hyper customer attention enabled by, tech and data and software. So that's like my personal one. That's why it's my favorite. what do I think? And I think that does have radical impacts on real estate, right? Just think of the portals, that was their original promise, right? Was I'm going to resolve asymmetric information. Well, not I, like those companies like Redfin and Zillow, and they created transparency around listings, like very cool. That is a very, very cool kind of disruption and change, but that's kind of, been provided, maybe not on commercial real estate, we talked about that, but residential real estate, like that part might be done. Okay, so then what are the things that I might think would have radical impact on real estate? So one of the things we talk a lot about is that there are some really, really cool technologies that could change the world, but the implementation would be really hard because of how those jobs are practically done right now. So like where I imagine Christian would love to go with this question is to talk about like blockchain. Like when you think about blockchain as simultaneous contracts, that can be updated, they're all, distributed system. So it's easily accessible, but you would know if anyone touched one wallet, it's just like this technology could be kind of radical if you just think about title, and how hard it is to buy a home and how many people need to be touched and verified. It would be radical to have blockchain systems, and that would really, really revolutionize what you could do to that transaction. You could make it so much more simple. It would be incredible. To get there, you would need all these counties, some of which are still even on paper, like forget digital, databases where they log this information, like they're just on paper. So what is the path to get there, So that's another one that's just very cool and could be, just outstanding. But maybe something halfway there. Let's just pull back and then let's go halfway. Computer vision, right? So you can train an algorithm in order to look at a document. So look at a contract, and then what can this computer read about what's on this contract? That's like kind of walking your way to this more digital space.
There's so many inefficiencies currently in the real estate market, and there's so much tech that could help with those sectors. So would you say that we're pretty much still on the ground floor of tech and real estate?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're not, there's so many pieces of that, all the transactions, that just we haven't really supported. And if anything, when you kind of think about it, I don't know, over time, the arc of maybe real estate, both commercial and residential, has been more about barriers put in place, to getting a lot of the decisions and the work done. Just think of all the laws and regulations that we have to, keep track of and follow. And that's around like the mortgage, like getting the mortgage done. The process for that, say at Wells Fargo, is highly complicated. One, because it's a large bureaucracy, but two, because of all just the rules and regulations that you have to follow, and then it layers on top. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. So what is one of your favorite books, hobbies, or charities?
Oh, man. Well, I work a stressful job during the week. It's really fun and creative. The way that I phrase it a lot of times is I'm exhausted but creatively alive. So that's great. But I don't, in that way, because it's intense, I don't really like games, and it's just the competition is just too much. I just like my garden. There's built-in failure, and there's gradual wisdom that you learn, right? And then one day I can be this old lady who just knows how to garden, but I learned that through all this study stuff. So in the meantime, I guess the trampoline is blocking it, but I've got a pretty extensive backyard farm back there. My 6 chickens. We got our first green egg today, which is very exciting. Otherwise, they've just all been light brown. But a bunch of veg, and doing a lot of cut flowers this year, because maybe the vegetables are a little bit like making dinner but harder. But I will always spend 15 minutes to do a bouquet. So
that's great. I'm jealous having gone through the MSRE program. I love it. I think they're continuing to make improvements to it. Your class wasn't available to us when I went through it, so I'm going to try and find a way to come back and audit if I can, and take it. I'm fascinated by it. So
yeah. If anything, we just walk through a lot of different, companies, examples, and what's happening, and technologies, and I try and explain it, as accessibly as possible. And then you got to try and anticipate, like, what does that technology do, or even just like the disruption. Yeah, it's not always about technology. Sometimes it's about just putting old technologies together. Like it's not necessarily about like AI, computer vision. It's just like software itself is kind of revolutionary. Yeah.
Great. So if people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter. You know, I'm building that up. So at Skylar Olsen 9. I just got the title that they gave me. I don't know about the 9, but at Skylar Olsen 9. Yeah, I guess you could also follow TOMO at We Are TOMO. LinkedIn is actually also very, very good. I'm on there all the time. So just search Skylar Olsen. I'll come up. You'll recognize me. I'm at TOMO. Yeah, those are probably the two kind of best.
Good. We'll add link to each of those. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us today, Skylar.
Yeah, Jeff and Christian, thank you so much for having me. This is fun.
Thank you. Bye.